Hi everyone, welcome back. So yesterday we talked about kind of the beginning of the war and what's happened. We've talked about kind of now how the Nazis have taken over using blitzkrieg most of Europe. The Battle of Britain, the Operation Barbarossa, where they've moved into Russia. Today we're going to talk about what's going on in Africa at this time, because Africa is also being invaded not just by the Nazis but also by the Italians and Mussolini. Because remember, he wants to recreate that Roman Empire. So today is war in Africa. Now, the Allies had plans to attack North Africa, which was under the Nazi control, as early as the early 1940s. And in 1942, of November of that year, the British and American forces invaded North Africa, and the Axis forces were under the command of General Erwin Rommel. That's the guy to the bottom, right underneath me here. And he was known as the Desert Fox because he was such a success at desert tank warfare. This is not troops necessarily fighting it out hand-to-hand combat. These are massive, like, tank battles going on at this time in Africa. Now, the American troops landed in Algeria and Morocco under the command of General Dwight D. Eisenhower, future president, but was stopped in Tunisia. However, backed by the British forces of Montgomery, American General George Patton, over here to the side, at that side over there, I think, who was also nicknamed Old Blood and Guts, closed in on Rommel and end up kind of making huge gains in the area. And the British forces stopped Rommel troops at El Alamein in northern Egypt. Now, the Allies drove out the Axis forces of North Africa in May of 1943. And the German and Italian forces surrendered in North Africa in May of 1943 as well. And so this really begins to kind of cripple the Axis powers when it comes to their southern borders. Because if you think about it, the northern the northern coast of Africa that borders the Mediterranean Sea had been under Axis control for quite a while and was actually kind of a buffer now for the mainland Europe and really even for Italy, which would kind of be one of the first countries that could be invaded if northern Africa was sure to fall. And that's exactly what happens. The Allies used their bases in North Africa to launch a massive scale attack on the Italian mainland and southern Europe. The Allied troops landed in Italy in September of 1943, and next Allied forces captured Sicily and began their invasion of mainland Italy in September of 43. Now, the Italians knew that they were defeated, and knowing that, they end up overthrowing Benito Mussolini, their leader, and they actually take him, his wife, and many of the other leaders of Italy at the time, and once they kill them, they string them up, hang them upside down, and the people of the town are allowed to come by and punch and kick and spit on, actually, the former leaders. And I can show you some really gross photos, if you'd like, of what Mussolini looked like by the time people were done beating on him and kicking on him and punching his head in. It's quite gross. Think of it like almost like throwing a watermelon off of the Empire State Building. It's pretty disgusting. Now, the Allies gained control of Italy in June 1944, and they are then going to move. Whoops, sorry. Come on. There we go. They're going to move on to France. Once they get to France, they're going to try to liberate France and free it. Guess what? Spoiler alert, they are successful. The liberation of France begins in 43, and the Allies agreed to fight until the Axis powers surrendered unconditionally. So Germany, the USSR, the Great Britain, America, France, all the Allies powers say, we're going to continue fighting. We're all going to make this agreement. We're not going to quit until we get all of the Axis powers to capitulate. Until late 1942, it appeared that Germany might still win the war, but as 42 ends and 43 begins, you can see the tide starting to turn against the Axis. By the beginning of 43, the war began to turn in the Allies' favor, and since autumn of 43, the Allies had been planning an invasion of France from Great Britain. General Dwight Eisenhower, after his kind of defeat in Morocco and Algeria, he's going to move back up and he's going to lead kind of the all of the Allied forces in a direct effort to take over the mainland of Europe. And he directs an invasion called Operation Overlord. This also has become known as D-Day, which happens June 6, 1944. And the Allied forces under U.S. General Dwight Eisenhower, they land on the beaches of Normandy in France, and they are very successful. They storm the beaches. The Allies are faced with underwater mines, with barbed wire and machine gun fire, but they are successful. And Hitler believed that the invasion was, and main reason why they're so successful is Hitler believed that the invasion was a diversion, and he was not prepared. The beaches of Normandy had not been well fortified, mainly because he thought they would be attacking over here to kind of take his attention away, and really would be coming from somewhere else. And within a week, the Allies land 1 million troops and over 500 tons of supplies, including 171 vehicles, onto the beaches of Normandy. And within 3 months, the Allies had landed 2 million men and over 500,000 vehicles. The Allies end up liberating Paris by August 25th, 1944. And this is a huge deal. I mean, now suddenly, for the first time, the French the French government can reestablish itself. The French people can openly defy the Nazi government that had been in place. And they're going to use now France as a center point for launching a greater attack and pushing into Germany. If you think about this, all this is going on at this time. The Russians, who we will talk about later, have been coming in from the east. They are coming in. The other Allied countries, mainly Britain and France and the United States, have been coming in from the west. And Britain and the United States have been coming in from the south. So they're slowly closing in. Again, to use kind of a Civil War term, it's a little bit like the Anaconda Plan 2.0. Much like how the North tried to surround and cut off the South, so are the Allies. They're going to slowly kind of move in and take over parts of Europe to slowly close in on Berlin. All of this is going to lead to what is known as the July 20th plot, which we will talk about in our next video. Until then, make sure that you have all of this information in your notes. Any questions you might have, make sure you put into your notes. Sorry for hitting the mic there if that was loud on you if you're listening to headphones. And we will talk much more about this in class tomorrow. Have a great rest of your day, everybody. Bye-bye.